just like John Slaney so many years ago, who nobody really knew about, scored that big goal for Canada. You've known him for a long time, though, Haluschuk.
Matt Haluschuk, the first time I saw him, he was a 16-year-old kid. He started the season with the St. Mike's Majors, the Ontario Hockey League. Halfway through the season, they decided to give him some more season in Junior A. They sent him down. He played for the St. Mike's Buzzers. He played on a line with Andrew Cogliano and some other duster. I don't even remember his name. It was actually my son, as the fans here go into the crowd. That's unbelievable. Look at that.
Yeah, Marchand, remember, leapt into the crowd after his goal in the last game, lost his stick. This time it's much more intentional. I hope he doesn't lose the trophy, though. I might have some explaining to do there.
It's a phenomenal turnout to have a tournament in the Czech Republic. It's one thing for a lot of Canadians to make their way from Winnipeg to Grand Forks for a tournament. It's quite something else when you get that kind of turnout. Team Canada's fans travel well, let's put it that way. But just to go back to Haluschuk, I saw him that year, and I knew right away you could tell this guy was a terrific hockey player, just a terrific hockey player, and at 16 years old was dominating in an OPJHL championship, in the Dudley Hewitt Cup for the Central Canadian Championship. He was unbelievable, and he's gone on to do great things, first with the St. Mike's Majors, now the Kitchener Rangers, and he's going to have a chance to win the Memorial Cup this year.
And there is Steph Legion with his one good arm, hoisting that trophy in the air. Boy, what a shot. And Bob mentioned it, Gord mentioned it during the game, the sacrifices that Canadian Hockey League teams make to send their guys over here with the risk of injury. And I think one of the reasons this tournament is so popular, because it's such a Canadian victory, not only the junior teams across Canada, but a tribute to all the minor hockey league systems. I've said it several times during the tournament. I live in Unionville, where Stamkos is from, and the Markham Waxers organization, every fan has been talking about this for weeks, and it's the same way in 22 different minor hockey organizations across the country. And you know what? If you're a minor hockey league, sooner or later your number's going to come up. That's the thing about this tournament.
That just about everybody in Canada knows somebody who knows somebody on this hockey team, and that's the small degree of separation for all of us who follow hockey in Canada.
Kyle Turris, who you will watch a couple of years from now with the Phoenix Coyotes. If you saw Wayne Gretzky during our first intermission, Gretzky, who called the team during camp just before this tournament started to give his well wishes. Faxes poured in from National Hockey Leaguers everywhere. Jonathan Taves, the hero last year, sent one.
There's Jonathan Tavares with the trophy. Where does he want to be tomorrow in less than 24 hours from now? Where does he want to be, Jay?
Well, I tell you, Brad Selwood, the coach of the Oshawa Generals, they were driving into Erie for a game yesterday. The phone rings. He picks it up. Coach, it's JT. We just beat the Americans. We're going to the gold medal game. Oh, congratulations, John. That's great. No, that's not why I called. Listen, my flight gets in 2 o'clock on Sunday. I want to play Sunday night against Peterborough. 6 o'clock game time.
So that's a good Oshawa General, always wanting to play against Peterborough.
He's probably concerned because Brett McLean has moved 7 points ahead of him in the scoring race as well. Can't let the teammate get too far ahead. And so it's the Superman look. Capes draped across the back of several Canadian players. They don't want to leave, Bob.
That's not Superman, that's Spider-Man. That's Wayne Simmons, his nickname Spider.
That's right.
And he's got the trophy.
Is it me, or are they usually in the dressing room by now? This Team Canada doesn't look like it wants to leave the ice.
There's the two kids, Tavares and Stamkos, two 1990 borns.
Steve Stamkos, Paul Titanic coached him from ages 9 to 15 in Markham. Also was his very first coach. Paul's son signed up for House League, Mite House League, 4 years old, and this kid signed up for the team and was the most dominant player in the league of 5- and 6-year-olds. Titanic was fortunate enough to get him again 4 or 5 years later, and the rest is history as he's become a dominant player and likely the first pick in the next draft.
Sean Mathias with the trophy right now, and wow, what can you say about Sean Mathias in this tournament? Being a stealth bomber, a guy that came in under the radar a little bit. Steven Stamkos checking out the medal, him and John Tavares. And Stefan Legion, Wounded Warrior. Looks like he's got Todd Harvey's cowboy hat on in 1995.
That's right, in Calgary. Well, he's been the character of this tournament from his vintage Gino Reda impression you may have seen before the tournament started.
I was going to say those two guys, Tavares and Stamkos, both 1990 birth dates. I was going to say they probably played a lot against each other growing up, and maybe they did a bit, but Tavares always played up in age group with the 89s, with Sam Gagne and that whole crew from the Toronto Marlborough minor midgets in the GTHL. Steven Stamkos, of course, playing for that great Markham Waxer team coached by Paul Titanic, as you said, along with Michael Delzato, Cody Hodgson, and many others.
Yeah, they did run into each other more than a few times in tournaments. Stamkos often played 2 years up.
Nice bucket on Giroux.
And tell you what, the look is not very good, but the play of Claude Giroux today was absolutely terrific.
Last 2 games, he really elevated his play. He was decent in the preliminary round, but boy, oh boy, did Giroux, Marchand, and Turris ever step up against the Americans, and then in this game against the Swedes.
Well, they do have a flight to catch at some point tomorrow. And you hear the singing in the crowd. Gordon Miller talked briefly about the train ride from Pardubice to the Czech Republic, to Prague, excuse me, which is about an hour and a half away. Most of the Canadian fans have been staying in Prague, and the trips have become quite legendary, mostly because they've had plenty to celebrate. Team photo number 2 in front of the big Canadian flag. And there you see Steve Mason diving in at the bottom. And let us not forget Jonathan Bernier in all this, who was deeply disappointed, of course, after not getting that second opportunity after the bad third period against Sweden. A third period that was bad for the entire team, by the way, not just Jonathan Bernier. And yes, he was disappointed, but I think what else can you expect from a teenager who wanted and had hoped to play all the way through to the gold medal game? And there is the coach.
Hey, back-to-back gold medals for Craig Hartsburg, the head coach of the team. Exactly the same accomplishment as the man who preceded him, Brent Sutter. Back-to-back gold medals for Brent Sutter. There's Curtis Hunt, handled the defense and the penalty killing. I'm sure it'll go to Clem Jourdain now. Yeah, Curtis needs a drink there. Fill that sucker up.
Curtis,
there's Matt Halachuk, the game winner. Claude Giroux with the homemade bucket.
Tell you what, there could not have been a tougher act to follow than Brent Sutter for Craig Hartsburg at this tournament. In fact, you really had to follow Sutter twice. He took over for him last year, and then Sutter comes back and has that dominating performance against Russia at the Super Series, and then it's Hartsburg again. That is one tough act to follow, but 2 straight gold medals. You could not follow it a better way. John Tavares already has the digital camera out. Memories that will last a lifetime for Team Canada. Karl Alzner, one of the nicest kids you'll ever meet, has this superstition growing up. Every time he looked at the clock and he saw 11:11, he made a wish. One of those wishes was getting drafted into the NHL. One was winning the Stanley Cup. The other was winning gold at the World Juniors. And maybe a little bit of a corny story, but he doesn't care. He's a little bit of a corny guy. And the dream has come true twice in a row for Karl Alzner, who's going to be a staple on the Washington Capitals defensive line for a long time. We say goodbye to all of you watching in the U.S. on the NHL Network. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the World Junior Hockey Championship. For all those of you watching on TSN, TSN HD, and on your computer on tsn.ca here in Canada, we will continue with our post-game coverage from Pardubice in the Czech Republic. Canada has won the quad, 4th straight gold medal for Canada at the World Juniors. We'll have all sorts of post-game reaction from inside the Team Canada dressing room as the players continue to file in right now. There is Captain Alzner. All right, James Duffy back with Bob McKenzie. I believe that is a new record for the longest on-ice celebration for a Team Canada gold medal victory. That went, what, 20 minutes, a half an hour? But